Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something that, well, it touches every single one of us, doesn't it? No matter where we are or what we do. Conflict.
Right.
Those inevitable clashes of wills, uh, beliefs, even ambitions that really shape our lives, from the boardroom right down to the living room.
Yeah.
It's often uncomfortable, sometimes it's destructive, but it's always revealing. It kind of pulls back the curtain on what truly lies beneath the surface of relationships and situations.
That's absolutely right. Conflict in all its, myriad forms, it's like a universal language, isn't it? A fundamental part of how humans interact. And today, we're taking a deep dive into a really rich tapestry of interwoven tensions. We'll explore these through the compelling lens of excerpts from iThonga, Family Secrets and Business Battles.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. We're not just exploring a story here. We're kind of dissecting the source material from iThonga as a window into multiple simmering conflicts.
hmm
Some are overt, really dramatic. Others are deeply personal, internal maybe. And still others, well, they challenge long-held traditions and beliefs.
Mm.
This source material gives us a fascinating, almost voyeuristic glimpse into a world where personal anxieties and deeply ingrained cultural beliefs collide with modern ambitions and complex family dynamics. It's like a microcosm of the human experience under pressure.
Exactly. Our mission today is to try and extract the key nuggets of knowledge and insight from these sources. We want to help you understand the underlying dynamics of these disputes and maybe what they might tell us about human behavior when it's under, intense pressure. We'll explore who is at odds, what exactly they're fighting over,
Right.
and crucially, the often unforeseen ripple effects these conflicts have on everyone around them. And just a brief note from the source material itself, it comes with a 13L age restriction and advises parental control activation. So that immediately hints at mature themes and complex, potentially intense issues that we'll be discussing. It sort of confirms that these are not simple, easy-to-resolve disagreements.
Absolutely. That age rating really sets the stage, doesn't it?
Hmm.
It suggests we're about to explore layers of human interaction that are anything but simple. Situations where emotions run high and, well, consequences are significant. So we begin our exploration of conflict in the realm of business, where ambition often meets, well, apprehension, right?
Yeah.
And traditional views frequently clash with modern aspirations.
Yeah.
The very foundation of this particular family business, Magwaza Construction, seems to be a hotbed of tension right from the outset as a pivotal decision is made that threatens to unravel the delicate balance.
That's right. The initial tension, it really centers around Makamalo's bold decision to expand their business. She's brokered a significant deal to partner with a man named Tatansi. Now, this isn't just a potential new client, it's a partnership that immediately raises glaring red flags for her husband, Mambonjani. This isn't just some casual disagreement about a contract. It's the very first overt sign of internal conflict bubbling up within what appears to be a core family unit running this very public business.
And the seeds of disagreement are sown almost immediately.
Mm.
We see Makamalo making this announcement, not really inviting discussion, but with a firm insistence that this deal will happen.
Determined.
Despite Magamgani's immediate and vocal concern, he explicitly states it's not a good idea, but she just pushes forward. This single line already vividly paints her character, doesn't it? A determined personality with an unwavering conviction in her business decisions.
Oh, definitely.
She's clearly a woman who knows what she wants, has the drive to pursue it, and isn't easily swayed by dissent even from her husband. What does that tell us about her established role in this enterprise?
Well, her demeanor suggests she's not just an executive. She's a real driving force, accustomed to making decisions and seeing them through. But Megamanjini's reaction is particularly telling. He scoffs initially, which is a clear sign of disbelief or maybe even contempt for the idea.
Yeah.
But then he quickly seems resigned to her decision, agreeing to speak to Ntanzi.
Right.
This sequence reveals a complex dynamic in their relationship. Perhaps he respects her business acumen enough to not outright defy her publicly, even if he disagrees privately.
Or maybe.
Or perhaps he feels a certain powerlessness, in the face of her strong will and established authority within the business. His concern is palpable. He clearly harbors doubts about Ntansi's character or the viability of the partnership, but his ultimate capitulation hints at a deeply ingrained power balance within their marriage, one where Makomalo often has the final say, or at least the initiative. His deferral highlights a conflict of approach, his caution versus her ambition.
But then something truly unexpected and frankly deeply unsettling is introduced into this mix. Enter Malofi, Mbojani's other wife.
Ah, yes.
She immediately injects a unique and truly captivating dimension to this business conflict, the supernatural shadow.
Yeah.
She has this incredibly strong conviction that Nintanzi has bewitched Makumalo. I mean, just pause and consider that for a moment.
It's wild.
This isn't just about a potentially bad business deal or a financial risk. In her eyes, it's a malevolent spiritual attack on Makumalo herself.
It immediately transforms the nature of the conflict, doesn't it? And her description is incredibly vivid, almost chilling. She talks about feeling her body go cold as a dog's nose and believing she was talking to a snake.
Wow.
For Mahaffey, this isn't just a fleeting superstition or some vague fear. It's a tangible, physical, and deeply personal experience she attributes directly to Ntanzi's attempt to bewitch her. She's convinced she was too strong for him, right?
Yeah.
And so, unable to overcome her, he targeted Makumalo instead.
The Mbonjini's reaction.
Mbonjini's frustrated dismissal. Oh, Mahaffey, please cut it out, baby. Please tone it down. It shows his exasperation with what he clearly perceives as irrationality or maybe hysteria. But her belief is unwavering. He's operating in a world of business contracts, spreadsheets maybe. She's seeing spiritual warfare.
So this isn't merely a disagreement over business strategy. It's a profound clash between like a modern, rational approach to commerce and a deeply ingrained traditional or spiritual worldview.
Exactly.
It's an interesting commentary on how different belief systems can interpret the same events in vastly different ways, leading to completely disparate understandings of conflict.
Precisely. And what's truly fascinating here are the cultural implications of bringing witchcraft accusations into a business context. This adds a profound layer of fear, distrust, and even, irrationality to what might otherwise be a straightforward financial or strategic disagreement.
Yeah, how do you even deal with that?
Think about it. In a typical business dispute, you might hire a lawyer, review contracts, bring in mediators, right?
Standard stuff.
But when a belief in bewitchment enters the equation, those logical tools become kind of irrelevant. How do you negotiate with a perceived spiritual attack?
You can't.
It creates this us versus them dynamic that's not about profit margins, but about perceived existential threats, often rooted in unseen forces. This also reveals a deep cultural divide within the family itself. Mbonjini's frustration versus Malafi's unwavering conviction. It highlights how deeply personal worldviews, even seemingly irrational ones to an outsider, can profoundly impact what might otherwise be a straightforward commercial decision. It makes resolution almost impossible through conventional means. And it also speaks to a sense of powerlessness, maybe, where external forces get blamed for internal anxieties or misfortunes.
And speaking of perceived threats and the complexities of public image, the conflict continues even when Makumalo is publicly recognized. We then see this Bangamatho, a men's meeting.
Right, the meeting by the pool.
Yeah, held by the pool, men sitting on wood stumps, and Pablo, in his traditional attire, leading it. It's a very traditional setting for what should be a modern business discussion. That juxtaposition alone hints at underlying tension.
The scene itself carries subtle but potent tension. Pablo praises Makumalo for her leadership of Magraza construction, calling her determined and a history maker.
Okay, sounds good so far.
On the surface, yes, it sounds like unadulterated recognition and applause for her achievements. However, his very phrasing, something new and strange has happened, for us to have a woman leading one of the companies that implicitly reveals the rarity and perhaps the underlying discomfort or apprehension of a woman leading in this traditionally male-dominated context.
Okay, so it's praise, but with a caveat.
It's praise, but it's conditional praise, you could say.
So while she's being lauded for her achievements, the emphasis on her gender subtly suggests an underlying challenge to established traditional structures. Is the praise entirely sincere, or is there maybe a hint of surprise, even apprehension, from the male members of this traditional council?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's almost as if her success is remarkable because she's a woman, rather than just remarkable on its own merits. And that distinction, that sort of othering, it can carry its own subtle weight of professional isolation or implied challenge. It positions her as an anomaly rather than just a natural leader.
It's a classic example of a backhanded compliment or conditional praise, just like you said. It highlights her achievement, but simultaneously underscores her perceived deviation from the norm. The conflict here isn't overt, there's no shouting yet, but it's palpable in the subtext. The challenge she represents to established patriarchal structures, even when she's superficially lauded.
Mm.
It points to a broader societal conflict between tradition and progress, or maybe between the old guard and new leadership, played out right there in the business arena. It puts her on a pedestal, sure, but a pedestal that also kind of isolates her.
And the personal fallout of this subtle public tension is almost immediate and seems deeply painful. After the meeting, Makumolo is visibly upset. Her dialogue is powerful, filled with a raw sense of betrayal and indignation. He says, "I've worked in this industry for years, and I've never felt this way. By humiliating me, Mambancheni." She feels publicly undermined and worse by her own husband in a space where she has fought so hard to establish her authority and competence.
And Mombongjeni's defense is equally revealing, and it's a critical moment for understanding his intentions versus the impact of his actions. He immediately apologizes, explaining, "I was only trying to protect you from those men in the Tansy. They're bad people."
Protect her? How?
Well, he goes as far as to call Mentanzi that rubbish of a man. So from his perspective, he genuinely believes he's acting out of terror and concern for her well-being, especially given his deep-seated apprehension about Ntanzi and maybe even absorbing some of those supernatural fears his other wife, Malolofe, has been talking about.
Right, right. And this is the absolute core of the conflict here, isn't it? It's that fundamental clash of intentions versus impact, a scenario we see play out in relationships every single day.
Absolutely.
Mbongani believes he's protecting her, seeing himself as a dutiful husband, perhaps, but Makumelo perceives it as deeply humiliating and a direct assault on her hard-earned success and professional autonomy. Her powerful retort, "I've never needed anyone's kindness, I'm not a child," that's such a clear and unequivocal declaration of her independence, her strength, and her demand for respect as an equal in her professional space.
Exactly.
She doesn't want to be shielded. She wants to be acknowledged and respected for her capabilities.
That's precisely it. In this dynamic, it highlights a critical question for all of us, really. How do we communicate needs and boundaries effectively when one person feels they are acting out of care and the other feels diminished or even disrespected?
It's so tricky.
This dynamic of marital and professional conflict highlights complex issues of trust, respect, and gender roles, especially in professional spaces. It shows how good intentions, when they're not properly communicated or understood,
Yeah.
or maybe when they stem from an unequal power dynamic, can sometimes lead to profound relational strain. Momboni's protective instinct, perhaps rooted in traditional gender roles or simply his own anxieties about the situation, clashes directly with Makamoto's desire for professional autonomy and self-determination. This creates a classic conflict where both parties believe they are in the right, but their approaches are just fundamentally at odds.
And maybe the deeper, unaddressed conflict here is Magani's struggle to fully accept Makumalo as an independent, capable business leader who doesn't need his protection, especially in public forums where her authority should be unquestioned.
That could be it. It's a challenge to his own perceived role, maybe his sense of masculinity or control, and that can be a really difficult shift for anyone to navigate.
Okay, so now we shift our deep dive from the public arena of business to an even more intimate and often, well, volatile battleground, the very heart of the family.
Yes.
Here, accusations, especially false ones, can just tear relationships apart with devastating speed.
Okay.
They can turn the personal bonds that should offer security into profound sources of pain and sometimes irreparable damage.
This section of our sources immediately plunges us into the painful unraveling of trust between Lethakule and Nkosinathi. We first encounter Nkosinathi suffering through a sleepless night, just tossing and turning, clearly distressed. His internal turmoil is palpable as he questions why he'd want to mistreat me like this. This immediate internal confusion and pain signals that a serious breach of trust has occurred, one that strikes at the very core of his self-worth and his understanding of his family.
And the source of this profound distress is soon revealed to be a truly malicious act. Lethakuli is absolutely shocked to hear about her brother's, well, monstrous lie. A blatant fabrication designed to cause maximum damage.
What does she say?
She exclaims. "He even lied about you trying to kiss him and sleep with him."
Wow, that's heavy.
Kikosanathi's immediate reaction is to dismiss it as madness, just a desperate attempt to reject the sheer absurdity of the claim, but the accusation itself is like venom, designed not just to defame him, but to poison his most intimate relationship.
What's truly fascinating and awful here is the immediate and devastating impact of such a false accusation. It's not just on the accused individual in Nkosinathi, but on the marriage and the broader family unit. Lethakuli's poignant question, Why would I look at your brother that way when I have my own husband? It just highlights the sheer absurdity and the profound insult of such a claim.
Right, it makes no sense.
This isn't just a misunderstanding or a simple lie, it's a direct attack on her character, her loyalty, and the sanctity of their marriage. It's aimed at sowing discord where there should be unity. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see how such malicious lies can propagate conflict, erode trust, and create these irreparable rifts within even the closest knit families. It sets off a chain reaction of pain, disbelief, and ultimately alienation.
Mm-hmm.
It forces people to question the very foundation of their relationships and creates an almost impossible burden of proof for the accused. How do you prove a negative like that?
Exactly. And this erosion of trust and profound sense of injustice quickly leads to a breaking point for Inkosanathi and Lithokuli. They're shown packing their bags, making the incredibly difficult decision to leave the family home.
A huge step.
This act is a clear, decisive, and desperate response to the escalating conflict. It signifies that the situation has become utterly unbearable for them. It's not just a physical departure, it's a symbolic act of severing ties, at least temporarily, from a source of profound pain and perceived betrayal.
And their decision immediately provokes a desperate parental intervention. Mombelli and Themba, the parents, they try desperately to stop them, pleading, "Son, you can't just leave like that."
Try to hold it together.
Yeah, attempting to halt the inevitable, to maintain the family unit, but it only escalates the situation into a heated confrontation where everyone is apparently shouting.
Wow.
This is the dramatic crescendo of a long, simmering conflict, finally boiling over, revealing years of unaddressed grievances and unspoken resentments. The noise and chaos really reflect the emotional turbulence within the family.
And in this incredibly heated exchange, the true core grievance, a deeper, long-standing issue that has festered for years, comes pouring out with such raw emotion. And Kusunathi delivers this powerful emotional outburst directly to his father, revealing years of perceived parental favoritism and a profound feeling of being unaccepted. He says, "You've never accepted my wife. Anything Letho says, you'd swear God himself is saying it. And that hurts me, Mgabadeli."
Mumgabadeli, using the formal name.
Yeah, the use of his father's formal name, Mgabadeli, in such an emotionally charged moment, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's a deliberate distancing, a rejection of the intimate father-son bond in favor of a more formal, almost adversarial address.
Absolutely. And Kosanathi's use of Mgabadeli is not just a form of address. It implies a profound sense of distance, right? A formal barrier erected by deep pain and resentment. It highlights the emotional chasm that has grown between them. It's almost as if he's addressing a stranger or someone whose authority he's no longer willing to fully accept due to past hurts and perceived injustices.
Yeah, the father's response.
And then we have his father, Themba's, immediate counter-argument. "That's not true. I treat all my children the same."
Oh, the classic denial.
Exactly. This sets up a classic and often agonizing conflict of perceived reality versus lived experience. One person's deeply felt truth is vehemently denied by the other, particularly a parent whose role, ideally, is to validate and support. This denial often serves to, well, almost gaslight the aggrieved party, making them question their own memories and feelings, further deepening the wound.
So it's clearly a multi-layered conflict here. It's not just about the immediate crisis of the false accusation against Lithakuli from the brother.
No, that's just the spark.
Right. It's about these much deeper, long-standing issues of perceived parental favoritism and Inkosnafi feeling profoundly unaccepted, not just himself, but crucially, his chosen partner, his wife. This accusation is simply the trigger that unleashes years of bottled-up pain.
And this raises a profoundly important question for understanding family dynamics. How do unaddressed past grievances, especially perceived injustices like favoritism, fester and ultimately lead to such profound and seemingly irreparable family rifts? The impact when one person's deeply felt truth is denied by another, particularly a parent who holds significant emotional power, can be catastrophic to family bonds. It fosters a pervasive sense of invalidation, resentment, and profound hurt, pushing individuals to a breaking point where the only perceived solution is to physically remove themselves from the source of the pain.
Yeah, to get out.
It's a powerful illustration of how unresolved emotional conflicts, if left to linger and deepen, can lead to absolute familial breakdown, eroding not just individual relationships, but the very fabric of the family unit itself. The denial of past hurts ensures they remain present, actively damaging the current reality.
Okay, finally, we turn our attention to a more immediate, high-stakes conflict, one that vividly illustrates how seemingly small distractions, especially when combined with inexperience and external pressure, can lead to really dramatic and dangerous consequences.
Yeah, this one feels very different.
This isn't just a story. It's a real crash course in cause and effect, where human error meets, well, unforeseen circumstances.
This scene, which cleverly picks up from the previously on segment, immediately establishes a tension between Lungelo and Ionda. Lungelo had explicitly told Ionda he couldn't teach her to drive anymore because his dad almost caught him, right? Highlighting a clear external pressure and a boundary he's trying desperately to maintain. However, Ionda badly needs the lessons, creating an immediate conflict of needs. His urgent need to avoid trouble versus her desperate need for the skill.
Right.
Lungelo, against his better judgment, reluctantly agrees to one last lesson, a decision that, in hindsight, sets the dangerous stage for everything that follows. It's a classic example of someone giving into pressure despite their instincts.
And it's an imperfect instruction from the get-go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost a recipe for disaster in motion. We see Ionda driving on a dirt road, which is already challenging terrain for a novice,
Definitely.
with Lungelo trying to guide her. Reverse, don't accelerate. Hit the clutch, don't accelerate.
Yeah.
The truck apparently lurches erratically, and Ionda gets visibly flustered.
Losing it.
She's clearly a complete novice, easily overwhelmed, and struggles with the fundamental mechanics of driving a skill that demands not just physical coordination, but absolute undivided attention.
Absolutely.
This inherent lack of skill and control, combined with the difficult environment, it's like a ticking time bomb waiting for a catalyst.
And the fatal distraction then occurs at the most critical and dangerous moment. Ionda, despite her earlier struggles and the inherent danger, gets excited and starts driving faster, even singing along.
Oh no, singing.
Yeah. This conflict of attention is absolutely central to the impending disaster. Her youthful enthusiasm and profound lack of focus on the incredibly demanding task at hand versus the absolute concentration needed for safe driving. Then Lungelo's phone rings, and wouldn't you know it, it's his dad calling. The very source of external pressure he was trying so desperately to avoid.
Of course it is.
As he gets completely distracted by the phone call, his attention split, Ionda speeds up further, loses control of the vehicle entirely, and crashes violently into a large electrical box. There's a dramatic shower of sparks that visually punctuates the sudden catastrophic consequence.
Wow. The confluence of factors leading to the crash is truly remarkable, isn't it? It's not just one single thing gone wrong.
No, it's a perfect storm.
It's a complex interaction of Ionda's inexperience, her excitement and singing leading to profound distraction, Lungelo's divided attention between instructing a novice and answering a high-pressure phone call, and the overwhelming external pressure of his dad calling, which just paralyzes him in the moment. This sequence illustrates perfectly how multiple, seemingly minor conflicts or distractions can compound and interact, creating a catastrophic chain reaction. It leads to a major, impactful consequence when high stakes are involved. It's a complete breakdown of communication, focus, responsibility, and risk assessment, all happening simultaneously.
Exactly. The core conflict isn't just the physical crash itself, but the chaotic interaction of all these human and situational elements. The immense pressure of external factors, specifically Lungelo's palpable fear of his father's wrath, exacerbates an already risky situation. Lungelo, already on edge about being caught, is suddenly pulled away from his instructional duties, his focus completely shattered at the most dangerous moment possible. It's a stark and painful reminder that even seemingly innocent actions, like answering a phone call, can have profound and dangerous ripple effects in a high-risk environment. It highlights the critical importance of situational awareness and undivided attention.
And the immediate aftermath of the crash is just an explosion of raw blame and regret, showcasing interpersonal conflict under the most extreme stress imaginable.
Yeah, it gets ugly fast.
Lungelo's initial reaction is pure, visceral panic. He shouts, "Wait, wait, wait, stop the car." Just before the collision and immediately after the crash, his primary concern is chillingly revealed. Ionda, my dad is going to kill me.
Now, are you okay?
No, it isn't about Ionda's safety or the damage to the vehicle or even the potential danger they're in. It's entirely about the severe external pressure he's under and the personal consequences he faces. He's just projecting his fear onto her.
And Ionda, she's shaken, probably in shock, offers a simple, meek, "Lungelo, I'm sorry," which is then met with Lungelo's furious and really harsh reaction. He says, "Ionda, leave me alone. I told you to stop the car and you refused. Do you see how stupid you are? Have you ever seen anyone singing and driving at the same time?"
Ouch, that's harsh.
It's a classic blame game, amplified exponentially by profound fear, shock, and stress. Lungelo's outburst reveals not just anger at Ionda's actions, but his own profound frustration and terror regarding the severe consequences he faces from his father.
Yeah.
The conflict here isn't just the physical accident, it's the immediate, brutal breakdown of their relationship under immense pressure. Accountability is violently shifted, harsh insults fly, further fracturing their already strained bond.
Hmm.
It shows how easily fear can turn into aggression and how quickly support can just devolve into recrimination.
It perfectly illustrates how fear, especially the fear of authority or severe punishment, can cause a person to lash out, right?
Yeah.
Projecting their own anxieties and responsibility onto others, even those they were just trying to help.
Exactly.
The conflict quickly devolves from a shared mishap into a hostile accusation, further damaging trust and pushing them apart. Hashtag tag outro.
So, what does this all mean for us? I mean, we've just navigated a landscape absolutely riddled with conflict in iThonga, from the strategic business clashes fraught with suspicion and even supernatural accusations, to the deep-seated family grievances that tear at the very fabric of relationships, and the immediate high-stakes fallout of youthful recklessness. It's been a truly intense journey through the friction points of human interaction.
What's really fascinating is how each conflict, though unique in its specific triggers and manifestations, ultimately echoes universal themes that resonate with all of us, I think. Themes like trust, respect, communication, power dynamics, accountability, and the often painful consequences of our actions and our words.
Whether it's a perceived slight in the boardroom, a long-held family hurt, or just a momentary lapse in judgment, these sources brilliantly illustrate how tension can manifest and escalate. It can go from a whisper to a shout, from a minor disagreement to a complete fracture in relationships, often with surprising speed.
This deep dive into iThonga isn't just about fictional characters, is it? It's like a powerful mirror. Think about the conflicts in your own life, your work, or even in the news you consume daily. Can you begin to see how misunderstandings, unaddressed grievances, or maybe just a simple lack of clear communication can escalate into something much larger or more destructive than the initial spark?
Yeah.
How often is it not the intention behind an action, but the impact or the perception of it that truly fuels the fire of conflict?
That's such a key point. Understanding the anatomy of conflict, what triggers it, how it escalates, and its profound emotional and practical toll. It's an incredibly powerful tool for navigating our own lives. It helps us not just observe, but perhaps even approach our own challenging interactions with greater insight, maybe more empathy, and hopefully a clearer path toward resolution, or at least containment.
Right.
It encourages us to look beyond the surface blame and try to understand the underlying fears, beliefs, or past hurts that contribute to the tension. It's about being a more informed participant rather than just a casualty in the conflicts of life.
As you reflect on these various clashes we've discussed, the business deal fraught with suspicion and those supernatural beliefs, the family torn apart by lies and favoritism, the driving lesson gone catastrophically wrong, consider this. How often is the perception of an action rather than the true intention behind it the real fuel for conflict?
Good question.
And how might a deeper understanding of those different perceptions, maybe a willingness to truly try and see the world through another's eyes, change the outcome, or even prevent the conflict from igniting in the first place?
Yeah.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive into the wellspring of human knowledge.